Hello, welcome to another Sunday live YouTube stream. Everything seems like it's working. Hello, if you can see this or you've just joined, welcome. Just thought I'd do a nice Sunday YouTube hang. So let me know if you can hear the guitar and the voice properly. Should be fine. Says all systems go here, so. Oh good, it's working fine. Let me see if we can play you something. Here's a song I haven't played in a while. It is called Lead Chain Swing. Okay. is a good fun track to play. You kind of it's all about the right hand actually in this one, because you have to do the whole so that's like very swung kind of and then the heavy part is so it's kind of like one is with that swing thing in it, and one is more like a straight kind of a thing. So it switches at some point in the song. Let's go, master. The part I used to know probably was that this one like. But I have to say my favorite Metallica album was Ride the Lightning. That's got some really cool shit on it. I mean, I don't really play much of that stuff apart from... Let's see if you can do this bit, so... Yeah. I like this bit here. When you do the... So that's like a F with the C, which is the fifth, and then the D. So it's kind of, it's got the fifth and the sixth. Now this bit, this is pretty much a E, but you're starting on the third. So you go, this is E with a G sharp as the lowest note. Again E, but with the E as the, so it's, so you're going, and then it goes into the, this is another cool chord, this one, which is like playing an A minor 7th here, and then you just, I first learned this chord while playing Gallows Pole by Led Zeppelin. Which is another cool song because you've got your A major, and then you've got that A minor as well. So minor 7th rather, because of the G. A similar thing now. So go. And then it goes to the needle. Oh, look what I got. Haha. This is cool. The Hetfield Black Fang. See how much the sound changes with just the pick? I may not be playing this accurately. I don't know. Though sometimes, when you struggle with a part, either the sound or the playing, you may just have the wrong pick. So then you need to... It's good to have a whole bunch of them. I probably have like a choice of 15 picks in front of me. They're all just laid out in a line in various materials and thicknesses. So if I was playing like a clean funk part, I wouldn't really be looking at this. I'd probably want something like this 60 mm nylon. Let's see if if I do it on the head feel pig, it doesn't really have the bounce that this one. Yeah, man, 15 picks is actually less. There's more in a box somewhere. I'm like a pick collector because it's one of the biggest differences you can make to your sound is by just going through different picks. And they're cheap, you know. People buy a whole bunch of pedals and yada yada, but you spend your money on a few different picks. Get all the nylons. The nylons are good. This is a 1.07. This is like mostly for Blackstart blues gigs. This is what I'd use. So that's the 1.07. This is the black one's the 1 mm nylon. And this is your 88. That's your 73. That's your 60. Come on, focus, camera. Then this one, this is a really nice one. This is a Jim Dunlop heavy XL, extra heavy or something. But this is something I'd use like, you know, more for like Gary Moore kind of thick sound. This is some random pick which has some, it's kind of like a nylon. Then we've got the Black Fangs. This is a 73. And that's the 1.14. Come on, focus, focus. Oh yeah, this fucking autofocus. No. Okay, there you go. Then this is a nice one. This is the Gator Grip. This one I got from Ehsan. He used to use these. I think he still does. Then these are your Altex, the pointy tip ones. There's a few different thicknesses of the Altex. And then there's the normal Altex with the rounded edge. Then this is a nice one, the Tortex. The yellow, I forget the green. I've run out of greens. And then some more Altex with the, you know, we've got a whole bunch of different picks here. There's some more in the box, but I cannot reach it right now. Let's see if some questions. Someone says your go-to pick is the Dunlop 350 to 60. Yeah, it's good to have a go-to pick, but you should probably, you know, have a bit of a collection and see what works. You'll get an idea once you go through it, you know. It's just a matter of trial and error, which I think is a, you know, it's a bit of a dying art. People doing their own, because there's so much of that. Oh, I'll just go to YouTube and see what so and so is doing, you know. But generally, what works for someone may not really work for you. What works for me may not work for you. So, you know, to each their own. But just take the time to figure what works, I would say. Someone says you can place your left hand behind the pick to help the camera. Oh, okay. I'll try that the next time I'm doing a pick shootout. Sabrajoti says, I'm thinking about getting a fuzz pedal. Can you tell me the difference between a fuzz and an overdrive sound? Generally, a fuzz tends to let more of the low end through, so you can hear the, you know, it breaks up and it just gets, well, fuzzier on the low end. And then overdrive will generally cut off a lot of the low end, not a lot, or some of the low end before it goes into the distortion stage of the pedal. So you get a bit more tighter sound. But here's a cool trick to getting a fuzz sound from an overdrive. And the best part is it's free. So like say you're on your bridge pickup and that's your overdrive sound. Just turn that tone knob down. It's what they would call the Clapton woman tone. But it does sound a bit like a fuzz, even on the neck pickup. That's the fuller tone. I mean, more open tone. So next time you need a fuzz and a pinch, just try that. Just drop the tone knob. It works sometimes. Ajit says, please share your tremolo setting. You want to share a guitar player's name? Oh, that's Carl Verheyen. 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 So I set the tremolo to pull up as well as pull down. So what he said to do was to set the G to pull up 3 semitones, the B to be 2 semitones, and the E to be 1. So the way you do that is, if you look at the back, there's this claw, right? So you have to set that claw angle to a point where, this happens. And what I find is this side, which is the treble side, is, coming closer to the bridge, and this one, which is the bass side, is, screwed in a bit more. So if you adjust these 2 screws, that's how you do it. And the whole idea is basically this tremolo is like a lever, and these points over here, these screws, are your fulcrum points. So the strings are pulling in this direction, which makes the, bridge pull up. And then your springs are pulling in the other direction. So you have to kind of counteract the spring tension with the string tension. That's the basic thing. So once you get it to the point that, that the strings also, say if you go from a set of 10s to 11s, now the strings are going to be pulling more because the tension increases at the same pitch, then you'd want to tighten those. That's the only time I'd really change it, is if I was once it's set, that is. The only time I play with it is when I'm changing string gauges. And talking makes your voice dry. So yeah, Verheyen is what you want to Google for. Verheyen. Someone says, have I got a chance to try out any of the new Sire guitars with the Larry Carlton series? I have not, but I heard they're made to a pretty good quality. I had a friend who had a couple of the Sire Marcus Miller basses, and they were made, pretty well. So, I would think a similar thing is, and especially if someone like Larry's putting his name behind the guitars, it's probably of a good quality. Someone says you're a bit conflicted with the Larry Carlton and the Nick Johnston. To be honest, the only way you can actually do it is to, to buy one and try it out. There's only so much information you'll get by reading the specs and stuff, like, reading reviews and watching, sound clips and stuff. Just look at the basic config, the pickup config, and see which suits your style more, Is Zero performing at the Independence Rock? Yes, we are playing on the 5th of November. We're playing just before Pentagram, which is just like old times. Zero and Pentagram. And there's a bunch of other cool bands as well that day. I think maybe Parvaz is playing on the same day as us. I haven't really memorized the lineup, but yeah. We're playing on the 5th. So if you're around, come and say hi. Have I missed anyone's questions? I don't think so. Cool. Play some more guitar. This would be a good time to actually talk about my delay settings. Normally what I do is I have a quarter note on one side and a dotted 8 on the other side. So if you listen to it, you hear them, kind of do this tuck, 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 tuck. You haven't seen the Nick Johnston model in stock. If the Larry Carlton model's in stock, you could try it out, and see what that sounds like, and you'll kind of get an idea over the general build quality of that brand. Not to say that one is like the other or anything, but yeah, if whatever's in stock, try it out and see what you can glean from that. Ajit saying you've played guitar for 6 to 7 years, but due to some health issue, I have not been playing since the last 5-6 months. You somehow feel that your technique is fine, but you're lacking on your fretboard familiarity. There's a couple of things you can do. One is, there was a nice lesson about mapping the fretboard. You take it one note at a time. So like say you've got your A's, for example, you confine yourself to one A per string in this area between the 0 and the 12th fret. So like you say, you do this. Okay, so you get all your A's down, and then you start speeding it up. So you go. You know, you keep on going faster and faster till you get all your A's down. And then once that's fine, then you do your B's, you know, and so on and so forth. You do like one note a day, and you get that one note everywhere across the neck. And of course, you can go past this. Generally, anything that's on this area of the neck will also repeat here, at least in this range, you know, between your 1st and your 9th fret on a strat. You'll find that your 1st fret then becomes your 13th fret, all the way up to the 21st fret. So that is the first thing I would do your A's, B's, C's. So it'll take you 12 days to do 12 notes, and you know, hopefully things will become a little easier from there. The second thing to do is to start spacing out your major scales all across the fretboard. So what you should do then is like take your G major scale. And there's a guy I learned this from called Oznoy, Oznoy. And if you Google, he shows it pretty fast. So you kind of have to slow down, put the YouTube speed a bit slow. So he says you can look at it in a few different ways. Now keep in mind, actually, fuck it, I'll play a different guitar, which is in standard tuning. Let's grab this guy. Okay, here we go. So let's say you take your G major scale, and you normally would play G major like this, right? Okay, that's fine. And you say, okay, I know my G major scale. But the whole idea is to get that G major scale across as much of the fretboard as you can. So the first thing you want to do is you want to do it 3 notes per string. And you start here and you go 1, 2, 3. So you will be doing this. Okay, now you're starting that whole pattern 3 notes per string starting on the first note of the scale, okay, which is the G. Now we'll go to the second note of the scale, which is the A note, and you do this. And all this is your G major scale, right? Now same thing with this. And so on and so forth. You know, that way you can keep on going up, which, you know, 3 notes per string. The next thing you want to do after 3 notes per string is to start doing 4 notes. Now to do 4 notes, the whole trick is to use your index finger to go between the first and the second. And then you use the other fingers of the hand to play the 3rd and the 4th note of the string. So you do this. Okay, now the next note, I've come to the C, right? So next note would be the D, which is the 5th note of the scale. So you have that here. And then so on and so forth. So you would be practicing very slowly. Something like that. And there's a few other things you can do as well. If you watch the rest of the video, you can take your time. Let me tell you though that this whole exercise, it took me like the better part of a year. Whenever I had some time, because I was like a busy touring musician. So every time I had time during sound checks and stuff like that, I would just be practicing this. So, you know, that opens up the whole fretboard in terms of like that one major scale, and then you have to do that times 12. So the advantage of doing that is that for every major scale you do, like say you just practice your G major scale, you've also just practiced your E minor scale because it's the same series of notes. So you just, you know, get the whole thing. You don't have to always start on the G. That's the whole thing that blew my mind. You can, oh, you can start on the A, you can start on the B, but just play that whole same series of notes and just stretch it across the fretboard. So those 2 or 3 exercises will take you at least 6 months, I'm guessing, to really get into it and take effect. But if you do it, then after the 6 months is done, then you've progressed quite some time as a guitarist. Also, the Open Up the Fretboard series. Yeah, there's 2 videos. The one with Musicians Institute in LA. That's the one I watched. So you have to just slow it down. Do I also look at it as at the perspective of playing different modes? Yeah, you could do that, because if you play your G major scale, for example, you've just got your A Dorian, right? It just depends what you play it against. So you could play that whole scale pattern against a G major drone, Just put on a G major drone and just play over that. Just so you know what the relation of those notes with regards. Because the whole thing that makes it an A Dorian versus a G is if the key center is an A minor. Yeah. But it's only going through the modes if the key center is changing, If I'm just changing the fretboard pattern and it's still being played over a G major, still only playing a G major scale. You're not playing A Dorian until the key center changes to A minor. So that's something to keep in mind. It only becomes a mode when it's played against, that chord which makes that major scale a mode, if you know what I mean. Like your C major scale, then when you play it from E to E, that becomes the Phrygian mode unless the key center changes to an E. All that Punjabi folk stuff, a lot of it is like a Phrygian scale, right? That's your E Phrygian scales, which is basically your C major scale, so... That's at least how I look at it. It's all about context. And very often people, look at the whole thing as modes as being like some kind of a fucking heavy duty thing. It's not. It's just about understanding the relationship between the major scale and the context against what you're putting that scale against. Because you have to hear that tonality in your head. If you don't hear the tonality, you might as well be playing G major or whatever the major scale is. It becomes a mode when you understand the thing. It's again like learning a fancy word or a saying or a phrase, but you don't really understand the context. Then it's not always a usable thing when you use it in conversation. Once you understand the context, it's like if you listen to Oye Como Va by Santana, it's just got 2 chords. Now that's your A Dorian, right? And it's also your G major scale. Now if I was playing against a G, it would go like... major, sorry. It sounds almost like Mr. Sandman, but if I'm playing it against the A minor, then it becomes a A Dorian thing. It's a very simple explanation, but you get what I mean. If you want to start actually getting into like jazz stuff, you could just look at the dominant 7th chords and just find different ways of bending those. Like a D7 could become a D9, could become a flat 9th, could become a, that Hendrix thing is a raised 9th. The 9th being the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. it's an E note, so you're making it a flat 9, which means an E flat. If you're doing a sharp 9, you're making it an F. That sort of thing. And all of those kind of resolve back to the 1. What's my go-to song that is also a good arpeggio exercise? I'll show you a cool one. It's called Satellite by Dave Matthews Band. I don't know what key it is in, maybe... Oh. So that's what you do. It's... And apparently it was his finger exercise, but he turned it into a song. I'll show you another cool thing. Like, say you're playing a blues, right? Let's do it in the key of G. So you want to just spice up by your normal. The name again, it's Dave Matthews Band is the artist, and the song is called Satellite, like satellite in the sky. Right. So you're playing a G major blues. Now, if I'm going from the 1 chord to the 4 chord, you could do something like put in an augmented. Okay, so you're going, and you're going from the 1 so all I'm playing is this G augmented shape, right, which is there. And if I was normally playing it as a comping chord, it would have the dominant 7th as well. So all I'm playing is that chord shape, right, this chord shape, in building it into the okay. And if I want to come from the 4 back to the 1, I put in this, what is this? It's a C sharp diminished. Okay, now if you look at this diminished shape here, if you take that C sharp out, what have you got left here? Look at the notes, G, B flat, and E. Now those are the same notes as the C7 chord, right? So all you're doing is you're taking the C7 chord and changing that C note to a C sharp. You're just going 1 semitone higher on the root. Okay, so am I using light picks? No, I've got a Dunlop 1.07, but I've learned how to make my right hand light. So anyway, so you come back to the 1 chord from the C. Okay, so becomes so you can do but you'd also want to get this note, right, the C sharp note in so you can do Now this C sharp diminished, if you keep on going, 3 frets up with every diminished chord, you go from C sharp diminished to E diminished, and it's G diminished as well. So now all you have to do is just learn your pentatonic here with the G diminished shape. Now that's damn simple. All you have to do is, okay, so if you look at the shapes here, that's your root, it's your minor third, and you've got your flat 5th, your flat 5th, then you've got this, which is the 6th, and you've got your root again and the mother. Okay, so you've got coming back to the, so that's one thing you can use, you use the augmented to go to the 4, and you use the diminished to come back though. 1. So you play G augmented over the 1 going to the 4, and you play G diminished coming back to the 1. That's like one thing I learned like earlier on, which was like, oh, it sounds a little bit more, like some cool shit. You can watch the replay though, in case you want to watch it back later and just sit with your own guitar and figure it out. Which is why I switched to the Les Paul. The Strat was in E flat tuning. Did I play any bluegrass stuff when learning blues? Not really. I mean, that's one thing I would love to learn how to do, this flat pick bluegrass stuff on an acoustic, but never really been something that I could do without much effort. Rishabh says, you'll be struggling with slide playing. Would you recommend any exercises to improve slide playing? Yeah, I'll show you a very simple one. So let's say, take a C major scale. Okay, we'll start from here on the G string 5th fret. So now if you look at playing, your C major scale on 1 string, so you go, okay, once you've got that down, then you start portamentoing, like you go from, okay, that's stage 2. Then the next thing you want to do is, so you're going 1, 3, 2, 2, 4, 3, 3, 5, 4, 4, 6, 4, 6, 5, and so on and so forth. So basically it's this. And so on, so you do that on 1 string, then you do the same thing on this. I haven't played slide for a while, so I'm a bit rusty with the intonation, but yeah, you get the idea. That's something that will, give you a lot of control over the intonation. What am I looking at here? What is this first song I learned to play on the guitar? It's a song called I Love Paris, which is kind of funny how that came about. My dad, when he taught me to play, he knew that, I would be really interested in continuing to play and practice if I got quick results. So he's a smart guy. He showed me my first chord as an A minor, which is kind of easy for a little kid to put your fingers there, And plus 2 of the strings, the lowest note and the highest note, are open strings. So you have to fill in the middle. Now, as a kid, your hands, they don't really fret cleanly, right? So you get... Now, even if that happens, at least you got this string ringing. And he's also a smart guy because he didn't want to hear me playing some balta, bad-sounding shit. So even if you're a kid practicing this, 2 things happen. A is you get the right hand working, and the right hand is the more, not more, but it's a neglected part of the whole guitar playing thing. And slowly my fingers started being able to press down, and the strings came, one by one, I started getting them to ring. So that A minor chord happened, and then once that happened, he said, okay, now just take the whole shape and move it 1 string up, 1 set of strings up. So that became my exercise. And I got used to just moving my fingers this way. Then I said, hey, is there a song that I can play with? Yeah, you can play a song. You can learn a song called I Love Paris. So it goes... If you ever Google it, it's kind of like a slow kind of thing, but he taught me to kind of play. And he taught me this thing about strumming, like short, long, short, long, short, long, short, long. In fact, I just spoke to him today. I said, you should come and show the people on YouTube some of the stuff you showed me when I was a kid. It'll always be helpful. So he's like, yeah, you think people want to know that? So yeah, if you want to know some shit that my pop showed me, put some comments, I'll show them to him, and then maybe he'll agree. He's a bit of a he needs a bit of encouragement to he'll do it though. He's a cool guy. So that was my first song, and I used those same harmonic structures from I Love Paris in this song called Where It All Began, which was a song on the most recent album Hindsight is 2020. If you listen to that song, Where It All Began, it's got the same harmonic movement as I Love Paris, because then from the minor it changes suddenly at some point to a major. So you'll hear that in that song, which is kind of when I wrote that song, Where It All Began. I had just moved back into my parents' house when we flew back into NZR. This house wasn't ready at that time. So we stayed a little bit of time in my parents' house. And then I was kind of going through, they keep everything. So I found all my old stuff over there, my old Case Logics with my Gary Moore CDs and all. So I was getting this major nostalgia flashback. So that kind of, was the impetus behind that song. How do you think a beginner should charge for a session? A beginner shouldn't be playing sessions, to be honest. A beginner should be playing with their buddies who are beginners as well. So, yeah, man, do that shit for free in case you haven't really got your shit down. Once you are a bit competent at the instrument, you can start charging money. But use the time, you're saying your friend's trying to get shit out of you for free. You get some shit out of him for free. You get some free experience, and that's how it works. I mean, if he doesn't have a budget to pay you, at least use it as, I mean, I wouldn't really advocating about working for free, but if you mention that you're a beginner, it's kind of like the similar thing, like a guy's apprenticing in any kind of a trade or something, then obviously you spend some time figuring out this shit. Unless you've gone to like music school or something, and if you're a beginner at sessions and you've been playing guitar for a while, then yeah, charge the fuck. But if you've been playing guitar for 6 months or something, just use it as a learning experience. So if you're a beginner session player, then you may want to negotiate some kind of either he buys you lunch or something like that. Don't do shit for free. If you've been playing a while and you've put in the time and you get a good sound and you got some good chops and everything, yeah, don't do shit for free. Am I a homeschooler? Yeah, man, I love Tom Bukovac's channel. I try to watch that as and when I can. I like the tour vlogs that he does sometimes. He's got that funny bass player friend. I think his name is Tony. From the Ann Wilson band. That guy cracks me up. He's damn funny. So yeah, I love the Bukovac channel. In fact, I started watching before the homeschooling thing began. He used to post these random lessons once in a while. And, it was like, I was always a big fan of his from all the session stuff that he's done. And then once the lockdown started happening and he started posting those daily lessons, I learned a lot of cool stuff. I think I've forgotten half the shit also I learned. So, here's another lesson. If you learn something, put it into practice. Otherwise, it's as good as not learning it at all. Because I learned so much shit that I didn't put into practice and I've forgotten everything. Now I have to kind of go back and like, oh, what is that bit? And then slowly, it'll come back to you. It's weird how once we learn to fret, not fretting right is so hard. Yeah, where you fret, I think fretting as close to the fret as possible is, what you need to do. Because then you get the best contact. Also, if you look at the string behind the fret, the closer you come to the fret, the shorter is the break angle, which means the angle it goes over the fret at. And you make a much better contact. How often do I use economy picking? I don't really notice if I do that sort of shit. If I could well be doing it, but if I'm going to be doing, it just happens. My hand just decides, okay, this is how it should be. And to be honest, I should actually be practicing my alternate picking a lot more than I actually do. It's just a matter of getting time. But every now and then I just sit and I just not do nothing but. Like if I'm watching TV with my daughter or something, I just have the guitar unplugged and I'll just be doing this. And I used to be really bad at that, especially like the coming down part. I could do this, but the coming down part, like, I used to be really bad at it. And I noticed when I started playing Steely Dan stuff, because some of the bebop stuff that, like say the Bodhisattva solo, this lick. That's the one. So that took me a while. I was like, oh fuck, why is my hand not able to do that? And I realized, oh, it's because I can't do this direction. So then I just started and did that I put aside learning that solo and I just practiced this. It's a bit mind numbing, but if you put your attention on something else and then just do that, then, it's slowly kind of getting the two hands to work together, the sync. And then that made a big difference. So you're talking about my dad. Yeah, I'll call him. He's a cool guy. He's the guitar George, that they sing about in Sultans of Swing. He knows all the chords. His chordal knowledge is pretty, cool. And once in a while he'll show me, oh, why don't you play that chord instead? And I'm like, oh, I didn't know that one. Yeah. He's complaining now these days because he's getting like old. He's like, how old is he now? 70. He's born in 51. That makes him 71 or 2. Yeah. So he's noticing the hands are slowing down a bit. So we got on that, that Chet Atkins model, which is like much easier to play. He likes playing acoustic. So we got him that and a little acoustic amp. But true to his form, he'll keep it there and all, and he'll still play his old Yamaha. So I gave him my Taylor GS Mini. He has a thing for small acoustic guitars, so I gave him that, and now he likes that guitar because the action is much less. That Yamaha is like a bear to play. He still likes it though. Roger's asking, Warren, which band should I learn songs on electric guitar to build your electric guitar chops? All the stuff that you like, man. The stuff that keeps you going, the stuff that makes you inspired, that makes you want to play guitar, that's the stuff you should be learning. I mean, there's nothing that, I would say learn all the Beatles stuff, just as in case you want to be, playing gigs and stuff like that. There's a bunch of information you'll get from that which you won't get anywhere else. So I would say all the Beatles stuff, every single album, at least listen to it and play most of that shit. Then Zeppelin, I learned a good bunch of stuff. Early Clapton with Cream, I learned some cool blues stuff from there. The stuff he did with John Mayall. Then Stevie Ray Vaughan, Gary Moore, all those are my like early influences. Don Felder from the Eagles, some brilliant guitar parts in there. So yeah. Someone says, I think Chet Atkins is the biggest beta player ever. He lures everyone thinking his songs are easy, but they are sure not. Man, Chet Atkins, if you want to get your ass kicked on guitar, if you ever think you become somewhat good and you want your ass kicked, listen to this album called Neck and Neck that Chet Atkins did with Mark Knopfler. And there's one song called There'll Be Some Changes Made. And at the end of that, song, they are trading licks between them, and fuck, man, that is it's worth listening to. I would definitely put that on. Yeah, I mean, you see how many guitar players he's influenced, from everyone from Scotty Moore, who then went himself influenced a whole bunch of, British rock guitar players. Guys like Mark Knopfler, Jerry Reed, Tommy Emmanuel, all the biggest Chet devotees. And there's one special he does with Knopfler and the Everly brothers, all the people that he's worked with. I think you may be able to find it on YouTube. It's like a TV special. It's cool. They do some interesting stuff there. Do I think that SSS or HSS or a double humbucker makes a huge difference, or does it eventually come down to the setup like processors and that? No, it makes a fair difference. Let's say, okay, so I'm playing a 2 humbucker guitar, right? You can hear the difference. I'll show you. So now, I mean, I can kind of make all of them kind of sound like me. But that's the neck pickup on neck humbucker, right? That's your bridge humbucker. Now listen to the bridge humbucker on the Les Paul. We'll go to a bridge humbucker on a Strat, for example, and you can hear that difference. Now the pickup is the same. I mean, obviously they're slightly different pickups, but they're kind of in the same ballpark, same amount of, same hotness. Now, because the Strat is a slightly longer scale guitar, you will hear that as the biggest difference, I think, because the strings are like a little bit stiffer, so you get more brilliance on the top end. Okay, now let's say this is my bridge humbucker. Now the tone, if it's full up, we'll get this. Now if I turn the volume down, for example, and leave the tone up, I can kind of get it to twang like a single coil because it's a low output humbucker, And you can even put a switch, because on a humbucker the two coils are wired in series. You could put a switch that makes the coil go into parallel, which will then become even more single coil like. Okay, now let's go to a same guitar. So this is an Eric Johnson Strat. So this is another Eric Johnson Strat with the same pickups. It's just that this one's got a bridge single coil. Now this is full tone up all the way. You can hear more of the ack. But however, I will roll that tone knob down now to around, say, 4 or 5. And it starts sounding a lot more like the humbucker. And then you have the... I mean, I could still play, still got the blues on a neck single coil. It's down to also like the... Okay, now we'll do the same thing back to the Les Paul, and you can hear what the other parts of the... I mean, the neck humbucker is obviously going to be a bit hotter, but... Okay, so now let's try the same thing back on the single coil, now that you know what the humbucker sounds like. Let's play on the neck single coil and roll down the tone, like say to around 5. It kind of gets there, but now that you know what the Les Paul sounds like, the Les Paul sounds like the Les Paul, and the Strat sounds like the Strat. Having said that, if I was stuck on a gig with just the Strat and I had to play, a sound like that, I would still do it. It doesn't necessarily sound thinner. It's just that the mids are in a different place. So let's say I'll turn that tone knob down to now, like say 4 or something. And say take it down to around 2. Now, if you didn't see me change guitars and everything, you may not really, say, oh, whatever, it doesn't sound right or something like that. If you hear them back to back, that's when you'll hear the difference. So, your answer, it's not one or the other. it makes a difference, yeah, sure, and you can still do the gig on one guitar. It's, down to how, close you want it to be. So I would say out of all those three combinations, the HSS would be the most versatile. You can get the bridge humbucker to chunk a bit more. You could even try a HSS, though if I was on a Strat style instrument, I really like that neck singer coil, That's to me like the beauty of playing a Strat is like being able to though I have to say the Les Paul is a lot of fun. Most Gibsons are, yeah. It's the time when you have to say, oh, I can only get one and not the other. That's when the problem arises. When you say, I have both the guitars, then it's like, it's like just two different tools. I have a Phillips screwdriver, I have a flathead screwdriver. But then if you're going to say, I can only afford one screwdriver, I'd say get the Phillips one, because most of the screws these days are Phillips ones. Very few have the flathead one. Or I'd say get a fine flathead one, because that's also fits in the Phillips head. But then, that's called jugaad. So I hope that answers your query. Did I just make you more confused? Roger Barreto says Sunburst Les Paul Blues. You need to ask yourself, has this person heard this joke before? And then I've been hearing this every time I play a different guitar for the last 15 years now. There'll be some black telly blues and fucking white SG blues, and I'm just pulling her leg. It's fine. I don't really mind. I don't get offended, but I'm just saying it's like it's been done. It's like going to your friend, hey bro, I wrote a cool new riff. Check out my cool new riff. Hey bro, that's been done before. Let's try something cool. Let me play a Black Star Blues song on a Les Paul. I think somebody asked me last time, like, what would happen if did you play blues for Gary on a Les Paul? I was like, no, bro, I had just one guitar at the time. So let's see what that song sounds like on. I don't know if I'll play the whole thing, but yeah, so a little snippet. 3, 1, 2, 3. that is a bit of blues spaghetti on a Les Paul. Someone asked, what is my least favorite Black Star Blues song? Um, I don't really have a least favorite one, but to play live, there was one song called "A Weekend with You" that I kind of did as a joke. It was a little bit of a parody of some kind of like a smooth jazz sounding thing. And a lot of people like it, which I find pretty fascinating. But to play it live, it's like I've got other stuff that I'd rather play. So, which is why it never really made it to any of the set lists till we had to do the whole Nights in Shining Karma album for the 10th anniversary. We did a gig. We did only the whole album from front to back. That's when I had to kind of go back and learn it. I was like, oh, it's cool and everything, but I'd rather not have to play it every night, if you know what I mean. Once in a while, it's okay. Um, yeah, you're getting a better understanding towards the tones among these guitars. Yeah, you definitely do. The only thing, man, you have to do is just play it yourself, which I understand can be very hard if you're on a limited budget. But in case you have a friend or something who has those guitars, and then maybe you can tell a friend, hey, come over to my house, let's have a bit of a tone party, and we'll try both your guitar and my guitar. And that's how you compare stuff. You play it back to back, and then your ears start learning how to make differentiations between the two guitars. And then once you learn to use your volume and tone knobs on the guitar, you can kind of morph the same guitar in a few different ways. Yeah. Any plans of Northeast while you're touring India next year? I would love to do it, but the only issue is the Northeast becomes very expensive if you're coming there directly from Bombay with the flights. So if a Calcutta gig is happening, then it becomes easier to go to Calcutta and then from there hop over to the Northeast, via Guwahati, or which is usually the case. Then you can drive to Shillong and stuff like that. I'd love to do it, but it's again logistically things sometimes are out of my control. It's down to the people who are like arranging the tour and scheduling it and budgeting the tour. There's a lot of things I would love to do in life, but sometimes I have to just be pragmatic and saying, okay, we can do it, or sometimes we can't. So yeah, if it's possible logistically, I'd love to have that to happen. Someone saying like Zeppelin, my life sounds even better than the studio. I actually prefer the Zeppelin studio stuff, if you ask me. Unless it's like a very early Zeppelin live thing. I think between like 68 and 73, that was like the peak live Zeppelin. From 73 onwards, it became a little not as cool as it used to be, which is not to fault them or anything like that. But then I guess once you become such a big band as well, and then all the distractions of being a big band and touring, that can kind of take a toll on the actual performance. I think Bonham was always in peak form, but if you look at Page as a live guitar player, 68 to 73 is kind of where you're going to find all the good stuff. But I like a lot of the later Zeppelin stuff, like the Presence album, especially Achilles' Last Stand. I mean, if you listen to Achilles' Last Stand, the studio version is way better than any live version, because the whole thing is down to Page's guitar overdubs and stuff like that, which didn't happen. If you do want to check out some of that stuff done well live, there's an album that Page did with the Black Crowes called Live at the Greek. Sorry, my voice is a bit dry. And he had the guitar players from the Black Crowes with him, I think. So then they were like 3 guitar players totally. And then they did all the overdubs. Brilliant stuff. So if you ever listen to that album, and it's mixed by Kevin Shirley, who does all the Bonamassa stuff. Great mix again. So, and I think that drummer who played his name was Steve Gorman, I think, from the Black Crowes. He did a really good job with the Bonham stuff. So, if you want to listen to some cool lives, at least live Jimmy Page playing Zeppelin songs, that's a good album to check out. Yeah, hoping for the best with regards to Northeast. But having said that, I mean, if we're playing in Cal, you can always hop over in case Northeast doesn't happen. I don't know if you guys actually want to listen to what a Marshall, a Les Paul into a Marshall sounds like. I can show you. You just have to give me 1 second because this headphone cable is a bit short. 1 sec. It's a good learning thing to show you what it should sound like. It'll take a minute to warm up, so I won't have any sound till then. Any stories about stage fright? I'm sure I have a bunch. Well, I used to have really bad stage fright in the early days. The first time my band Zero, we played at Independence Rock, I was petrified because it's the first time I got on stage and I saw like 5,000 people there, and I was very uncertain if they would like us. So those days I used to wear spectacles, so I just took off my spectacles and I put it on top of the amp. And the spectacles were actually for far side, so I can see the guitar without the glasses, but I can't see anything else. I had one pedal on the ground, which was like a Marshall overdrive or something. I think it was a blues breaker. And I plugged it straight into the Marshall stack, and I just needed to see the guitar, which I could, but I couldn't see the crowd. The crowd just became a blur, which was perfect. So that was my way of dealing with, stage fright at big gigs. I would just take off my glasses and put it on top of the amp, and everything was fine. Then obviously you have pedals on the ground, and you need to see if it's on, and then I switched to contact lenses. So other than that, I remember the first time I played with Amit Trivedi, I was a bit, tied to my iPad because it was the first time I was playing his whole set. And, I had made a whole bunch of charts and everything. So that gig, I was kind of like, just like that. I didn't even look at the crowd. I didn't look at anything else. I was just glued to the chart and not fucking it up. I even made notes in a couple of songs. There was like parts which were tricky, and I would write on the chart like, don't fuck this up. O2 a rainy day performance at the Royal Opera House had some amazing solos. Would love to hear them. You can actually watch the video on YouTube. If you just go to my YouTube channel and see the live Blackstrat Blues playlist, you'll find that there. We had Sabir Khan on Sarangi, and man, he just killed it. So you can actually watch that performance back. The whole way we got the video, the first part of the song didn't get recorded on the multi-track, but there was this guy, Satya Iyer, who used to come to all our gigs, and he had filmed it on his camera. So I took the first, section from his phone audio, and I just did a bit of mastering on it. And then the rest of it, once the drums kick in, it cuts to the multi-track. And you can see that because we used his phone video as well to make the video. And for video, we went between his phone video and Jay's GoPro. So we had two video sources. I actually wish that gig was like multicam, because that was a really good gig. I think I still have the multi-track. So what I'm going to do is we put out one live album already, and for volume 2 I've got some stuff lined up from a couple of other gigs, and then for volume 3 I'm thinking I'll find some stuff from that Opera House performance and maybe put that out along with some of the Gear House mixes if I can just remaster them. Please try doing a 6-string session with Kalyan Barua. Well, we actually did one. We've recorded it. I just have to edit it. So I'll be putting it out hopefully by next week or the week after. It was a cool interview. We were just laughing throughout the whole thing. So you'll see that in the episode when it comes out. It's already done though. I spoke to him when I did a cover of the solo on KK's Aapki Dua. And I asked Kalyan, bro, is that you? Because as far as I knew, Leslie Lewis, who produced the album, he did most of the guitars. But then when I checked with Kalyan, he himself had played a lot of the guitars. So that solo was definitely Kalyan. Because it sounded like him, like that nice clean strat sound, with a little bit of drive. Leslie was more like an ES335 guy. So, yeah. Um, am I into background scores? I'm actually working on one right now at the moment. But once it's out, maybe I can give you some more information on where you can watch it. But it's good fun. I've played on heaps of background scores, like guitar parts and stuff like that. So I think I played on the last bit of what's the movie with the cool graphics that came out? Brahmastra. I played on the last section where he, opens his chest and those 8 arms come out from behind him. I mean, sorry if I did a spoiler for anyone, but I did on that, and I played on. I don't know if it was the background score or a song from Lal Singh Chadda. But there's been heaps of background scores I've played on, and I don't really remember the names of the films. Sometimes I'll be watching some of them on a flight or something, and I'll be, oh, I played on that. It's cool when that happens. Um, tell me about your Mexican Floyd Rose strat and also Richie Sambora strat. Well, my Mexican one was just a normal Mexican Floyd Rose strat. It was black. It had 2 single coils and a humbucker and a Floyd Rose and a maple neck. And the Sambora one, which Farhad Wadia had a rosewood neck, and it was a slightly, a more expensive model. Then the really expensive Sambora one had the star inlays. I used to see that in the guitar shops. But if you want to get one these days, they're really expensive. They become like collectible. So that's like, never mind. I don't want one that badly. But yeah, the Floyd Rose on mine, I always had a problem with it because I don't know why they didn't figure this out. The neck had a much more curved radius, and the Floyd Rose is pretty much like a flatter radius. So I could never really dial the string height to where it would be ideal. So they should have actually flattened the radius on that guitar, on the Mexican one, and made it to match because you always have to match the fretboard radius with the curve on the bridge, which never happened on that guitar. So I still have it, but it's somewhere in my parents' house and they can't seem to locate it. They're kind of getting upset because my mom bought me that guitar. That was like my first proper guitar that she bought me. And she says, "Where's that guitar?" I said, "It's somewhere in your house. I can't find it." And you're like, "Oh, you have to look at it. Let's see." Sorry. Man, I should keep some water handy now. I don't want to go to the kitchen. Do I have some here? Oh, yeah. Sorry. Just give me a sec. I will just. Remember those old ads? Gale mein khich khich, Vicks ki goli lo. How can one start off with any suggestions with the same background scores? Oh, yeah, what you can do is you can, watch as many movies with good scores that you can and see, how the music and the story and the visual relates to each other. And maybe take a few good scenes and try and mock up a score yourself. Try doing your own score to a famous movie or something like that. You can find these scenes on YouTube, so you can just download that and do your own score to it. And it's also down to people know that you do good scores and stuff like that, then they're more inclined to give you such work. Have I ever checked out the Schecter? No, I haven't really checked out any Schecter guitars, I'm afraid. I think my brother may have had one, but I don't really recall playing it. Have I played any projects with that guitar? You're talking about the Les Paul? Let me think. I may have. I think I did some power chords on something recently with it, but I did a whole bunch of stuff on. There's a cover of Song Remains the Same that I did on my YouTube channel. I used this guitar. It turned out pretty well. Check it out in case you haven't. You get a good idea of what this guitar sounds like. Do I ever get bored of my own playing? Yeah, sometimes. I just don't play then. Sometimes I pick up the guitar and I feel like, ah, fuck, it's the same old shit. And I just put the guitar on and I go do something else. I don't really have a tendency to frustrate my own self these days. Just probably some days your brain is just not wired to, to do that. And like say it could be one of those days and then I have to record something for, like a project or something like that. Then I have to kind of just, take a deep breath and say, okay, let's do this slowly and do it part by part. And, generally if I'm working on a project, I have a clear goal in mind. Then I can do that. But it's normally when you are trying to, write a song or come up with a cool solo on your own stuff, then you have the liberty of saying, not today, I'll do it another day. Then you just have to do that. Put the guitar down and, do it another day. Have I played any projects with Mexican style? Yeah, the all the Zero stuff was recorded with that. The first two albums, because I used that guitar all the way up to Procrastination, which was the third album. By then, I had got an American strat. So if you listen to all the stuff from Hook, that's all the Mexican ones. Spit Leaf and Christmas and July and everything. That's all the Mexican guitar. It was a good guitar, man. It had a really nice sounding humbucker. It was somewhat in between a humbucker and a single coil, which was pretty cool. Okay, I've been online for like an hour and 20 minutes. That means it's going to be bedtime soon. Cool. If you guys have any last questions that you would like me to look at, just fire them across. Please play Kiwi Blues. I'm afraid I don't remember how that goes. I'll have to kind of listen to it. That's again some of the stuff that I just recorded and it's like a day's recording and then I don't have to play it live, so I don't remember how it goes. Just goes to show it's probably not a very catchy thing. So, I mean, you can listen to it. I think it's there on, I don't know where, it's somewhere online. I forgot where I had uploaded it. Maybe SoundClick? Try SoundClick. Anti-Gravity, I'll actually show you how I wrote it. I remember that one. So it kind of starts off with so it sounds like some complicated chords and everything, but actually it's just basically taking two triads, the C and this B flat triad, because both these two are the 5 and the 4 of your F major scale. Okay, so it came from a lesson called Modes No More Mystery by a guitar player called Frank Gambale, which is a great lesson on the modes if you want to, check it out. So he was talking about just taking a major scale and taking the 4 major triad, the 5 major triad and the 4 major triad. So you kind of get this. And then you switch the root note to. So I would get, if you start your F major scale, it's your A Phrygian basically. So to play over these chords, you would use your F major scale starting from A. That's the scale. So it's basically a Phrygian thing. But then what I liked is it started dark on that Phrygian thing. And then it became nice and bright with when you switch the bass note to. And I write a lot of songs like that still, I just take 2 triads. I did this one called Sometimes This World is a Better Place. It's not such a bad place, which just alternates between your B triad and your A triad. So it starts off with those 2 triads and the bass is playing B and A. And then suddenly somewhere through it goes, So I'm switching the root notes to F sharp, G and A. F sharp, G sharp, A, sorry. So over the B triad I'll have F sharp, G sharp, and A over the thing. And then finally, the last chord, you switch to the B. and you've got that B11th with the A triad over the B, and then finally the chorus. So the payoff will go over those chords. So you kind of get like a 2-5-1. That's what the bass line is. So, you could always use that same thing. Just take 2 triads and just try a whole bunch of different root notes. That's the long answer to a simple question. Have I ever listened to Polyphia or any of the new guitarists like Matthias Cesaro? Yeah, I have actually. I think I may have heard a little bit of Polyphia, more Matthias than Polyphia. Cool stuff, good in small quantities, not really on my, long listening playlists generally. I mean, I don't really do playlists, I kind of just put on an album and let it play. RVS Jam, no, boss, I don't know any of those songs. Like, I still can't play them. You can listen to them, I don't know any of them now because I've just never played them live. So, the ability to play them is non-existent now, considering I am 43 and I wrote all that shit when I was 18 or 19. So a fair amount of time has passed between then and now. I think the latest time I have done all that shit was my early 20s. By the time I was 22 or something. I moved to New Zealand when I was 25. So that all that shit was definitely before that. And considering like 20 years has gone by, you try going 20 years and not playing shit, and then someone asks you to play, you'll be like, how does that go? I kind of like have a vague idea, in my head of how that stuff goes. Especially like the chord changes of anti-gravity, like small things like that I will remember, but if you're not playing that shit on a regular basis, it just goes out of the window. Opinion on Tim Henson of Polyphia, I don't really have an opinion because I don't really know much. I don't really pass opinion on shit I don't know much about. I think that should be a good idea for most people. Don't have opinions on shit you don't know anything about. Do I see my previous songs and get surprised? I didn't see them, I hear them. I mean, they're not like movies or anything like that, but when I get surprised is when I listen to like some session stuff I've done and I've completely forgotten that I've played on stuff. It used to happen like, when I was quite active on the Bollywood session thing, we would go to Goa for a holiday. And then suddenly something would come on, we're chilling on the beach and, with your friends and all. Hey, didn't you play on that? I'm like, oh, yeah, that's me. Or sometimes it'd be cool. Oh, wow, that is me. How about the girl from Ipanema, Les Paul? Yeah, sure, let's play that on a Les Paul through a Soldano. Who will tell you all the chords is my dad. He'll probably tell you what color pants Jovian was wearing on the day he wrote the song. I'm just kidding. What I've been learning, like, these chord melodies. I play very simple chord melodies on guitar that just makes me happy. So like something like this. Let's see how many cool chords. So you got this flat 5. So this chord is a what is it? A minor 7 flat 5. But if you look at it in this context, it's pretty much this chord, just like an F sharp ninth. So if you take this, the famous funk chord, and take out the root, you're left with this, which is exactly the same as this chord, right? So if you have like a, like an F sharp 7, you could just play the B flat minor 7 flat 5, and then what's this one called? John Brown's. It's the during the U.S. Civil War, there was one of the two had their anthem. I think it was from. I'm not a Civil War historian. I think the South one was Dixie, right? What is it? Yeah, and then the northern guys had the. Did I play on a movie called Tashan? Yes, I played on the movie called Tashan. I flew down from New Zealand with my Misa Boogie Mark III and my Strat to play on that. But the title track, I think I recorded half the guitar parts on that, and that was on the day I had to fly back. So I had to tell them, like, dude, now my flight is there. I'm not going to miss my flight back to New Zealand, So Randolph from Pentagram, he played the other half. So we kind of tag teamed it on that one. I just passed on the baton to him, and I took my flight back home. It was a really cool album, especially that title track. There's some cool shit in the middle, with that harmonium solo and everything like that. And at one point they were asking me to double the harmonium solos. I had to do it like part by part or something like that. Have ever in your life your guitar strings broke in the middle of a song? Yeah, bro. I mean, you can't be a professional guitar player and not break a string. So there's two ways of mitigating that. Is you have a backup guitar, which I always did once I could, once I had two guitars, or you manage to find a way to, put on a new string, drum solo, put a new string on and tune up. Or like if you're on a floating bridge, the whole guitar goes out of tune, so you can't really get through the song. You can't continue. Everything's out of tune once the string breaks. So yeah, if you're on a Les Paul and the string breaks, it's easier. You can just continue on the other strings. But unless you have like some notes to play up here and you break your high E string, so you kind of deal with it. Either you just say, sorry, my string broke. I've had a situation, I think, on a Black Star Blues gig where the fuse on my amp blew in the middle of the song. And I looked at Jay and he just took off for like, 20 or 30 seconds. And I used to always keep a spare fuse on top of my amp. So I actually did that. And I knew it was the fuse because the light was on, but the sound went off. So I just, pulled that fuse holder out. I switched the amp off, pulled out the fuse holder, put the new fuse, put it back. And that was like literally a 15-second, changeover. And I put it in, I clicked the amp back on, and the tube amp, it just takes a few seconds to come on. And suddenly it was like, when the guitar just came back and the crowd just lost it. Like, fuck, changed the fuse in the middle of the song. It was like one of those, did that actually happen? But luckily, I knew exactly what had happened. Otherwise you just go on troubleshooting and checking your pedals and shit like that. Then, because I heard how the sound went off. I was playing the thing and it suddenly went, like not like a sudden cut off. You could hear that thing. And that when that happens, there's like a certain fuse in the amp called the high tension fuse, which is basically controlling the voltage going to the power section. So when that happens, you know that, okay, that because it's not an uncommon thing, especially in India. Sometimes the voltages sometimes tend to fluctuate. This one is so tasteful, I guess. Is it ideal to put the same brand of guitar strings? Yeah, I would think so, because the different string brands, sometimes they have slight differences in the tension in strings. Then you kind of have to, especially if you're on a floating trem, for example, then that makes a big difference. I've always stuck with D'Addario EXL 115s. On the Nights in Shining Karma album, I was using no, not Dean Markley, what were they? DR Pure Nickels, because I was just trying them at the time. My local shop had them, and I would use the 11 to 50 gauge on that. And then the DR quality started getting a bit iffy. You know, the one set would be great and one set would be shit. So then I was like, fuck it, I'm going back to D'Addario. So I went back to D'Addario. And then when I was in India, the my friend Jasbir, who was the Fender dealer, he also got the Ernie Ball dealership, and he said, "Do you want to try those?" I said, "Yeah, sure." I mean, I've heard plenty of good things about Ernie Ball strings. So he sent me a whole bunch of them, and I was briefly, endorsed by them. And then I moved to a place in Bombay, which is right on the beach, and that sea air and Ernie balls did not mix. Like I would take out the strings and put them on the guitar, and they'd already been, slightly corroded. And D'Addario has that vacuum sealed pack, which kind of keeps them fresh for longer. So I was like, sorry, I think I'll just switch back to D'Addario. And till this day, I buy them. I go to the shop and I buy the strings. They give me a little bit of a discount because I buy them in bulk. But yeah, man, fuck all that endorsing shit and everything. I just go buy my strings and they last for a long time. Like each set of, like, considering I've got like 15 guitars here, I pick one guitar a month and I'll change the strings on it. And, it lasts for, if I'm not playing the guitar regularly, they'll last for a little bit longer. The best way to preserve your strings is to put the guitar back in the case. The moment you're done playing, take a cloth, wipe the strings, put it back in the case. Because then it's not open to, air and pollution and shit like that. So it lasts a bit longer. Because I've had guitars, I've pulled them out of the case after like a few months and, they were still fine. And, it like now, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. What am I putting on right now? On all the guitars in standard tuning, the electric guitars, I'm using the EXL 110, which is the 10 to 46. Not the NYXL, just this bog standard one. Just stock D'Addario. I tried the NYXLs for a while, but they're supposed to be a little bit brighter sounding and everything. And I'm so used to, again, I'm very used to what the standard D'Addario sound like. So I'm like, fuck it, I don't really want to, at this point in life, the less shit I can, change. Just keep, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Same cables I've used for years, the Mogami 2524 cable string, same thing. I don't really change all that shit. At least something is, constant. We're trying different. For acoustic, I again use D'Addarios, but I use the set called EJ36, I think. They are the phosphor bronze. 11 to 49 or 11 to 50 ones. Yeah, that's what I use. There's a song in Tashan called Falak Tak. I remember that song because Shantanu and I were making some jokes about the title, but calling it Palak or something. I don't remember. Shantanu was the recording engineer on Tashan. He was the guy at Yashraj. That's where we recorded it. You heard us so yeah. There's another. I'll tell you this hilarious story. I've told it before, but just before I left again, they said, "Hey, there's one little thing that you could just quickly bang a solo out." So that was just like a groove, and there was like a drone or something like that, and I just played something like this was like the. Something like that. And then I went back to New Zealand. And then many years later, I came back and I was off to a gig early in the morning. And, like early in the morning, going to the airport at like 4 in the morning, your brain is like as it is fried from lack of sleep. And a truck pulls up next to me, while I'm in the cab. And those days I used to smoke, so I had the windows open. And the truck is blasting the song, White, White a Face. And I'm like, what the fuck is this shit, man? And then this guitar solo comes on, and I'm like, suddenly, like in my daze, I'm like, fuck, I played on that. It like was so clear. I heard it, I was like, fuck, I played on that. But how could that be? I don't remember playing this song. So then I asked Vishal, hey, did I play on this song called White White Face? He said, yeah, idiot, that was that solo you just did. Pretty hilarious thinking about those days. Anyway, chalo, I'll play you something to ride out. I'll put the Les Paul back and grab my Strat for this. This is something I've been working on. It's a Stevie Wonder song from one of his 70s albums. Oh, you want the riff from the Divaris Minstrel Tales? I remember that. That was again in Scotland. I flew there from Singapore. Talk about temperature shift from 40 degrees to bloody -2 or something. Oh, I forgot I was plugged into the Marshall. Let's do it on. No, put the Soldano back. Give me 1 sec. I completely forgot I was supposed to show all the Les Paul and Marshall, but maybe we can do that next weekend. It was a good trip, actually. I remember that with Karsh Papon and this guy Carl Barat from the Libertines. We had a good time. They drank I don't really drink, but the other guys, they drank the bar dry. I remember that. They're like, oh, we're out of whiskey, and we were staying at this place called Aberfeldy, which is the distillery. So they had to send out for reinforcements because our boys went a bit nuts. 1 second. No, keep this on. Okay, here's this Stevie Wonder song, if I can remember. Which key did I play it in? Okay, it's a very cool song. I was thinking of adding it to the set list at some point. So it's still like a work in progress. I'm still figuring out, what I want to do. But it's a really lovely melody. It's a song called, I Believe When I Fall in Love. It Will Be Forever or something like that. It's a last song, I think, or it's one of his 70s albums. But if you just search Stevie Wonder, I Believe When I Fall in Love, you'll find it. Okay. Chalo, thanks for tuning in today, and I will leave you with this little song from Stevie Wonder. Getting there. Still figuring out. Any Thin Lizzy solos? Yeah, man, one of my favorite bands. Maybe next time I can play you some. I used to love that song. Ah. That's from Black Rose, you know? Though it does sound better on the Les Paul, obviously. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next week. It's good that it ran smoothly without any. What is the song I played right now? It's a Stevie Wonder song called I Believe When I Fall in Love. It's from, I don't remember the name of the album, unfortunately, but yeah, it's a cool song. So, chalo, see you guys, and we'll do next week. I would love to stay a bit longer, but it is close to 11 p.m. and I need to prepare for bed because tomorrow is the start of a new week. I've been online for like an hour and 47 minutes, so I don't really want to, overstay my welcome here. Chalo, see you guys next week, and usually same time around 1:30 India time, and it's more like, so you'll kind of do like a weekly thing. Yeah. Chalo, thank you guys and see you soon. Bye bye.